Welcome back to Sense and Sensibility, the show where we're talking about all things money. Today, I am joined by former Governor John Huntsman, who is also an ambassador to Singapore and China. And I'm so happy to have you with me. And thank you so much for joining me today and taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks, Heather. What a treat.
So this is a little bit of a surprise, but talk to me about intellectual property. What is it? What is intellectual property?
So let's get back to the example we drew early on about a basketball that you're manufacturing here in the state, just as a hypothetical, as a make-believe example. So let's say you come up with a real interesting grip on the basketball that's formulated by you in your little laboratory. It's got better grip because the rubber on it is slightly different than or leather than other basketballs, and you want to get protection for your unique idea. Okay. So you go to the Patent and Trademark Office, which goes all the way back to Benjamin Franklin, who was a guy who started the Patent and Trademark Office all the way back in the 1770s or 1780s. That's how important the protection of your ideas were even in those days. So today it's no different. So if I'm sitting, so you apply that to your basketball and it sells all over the world. Everybody loves that grip. It's extra good and you can handle the ball that much better. Well, you're going to have people in other countries who are going to say, I don't want to go through the process of inventing my own grip. This one's selling. I think I'll just steal the ideas that the grip was made from and we'll make our own. And we'll put not your name on it, who invented it, but our own name. And we won't pay you any fee for having used your idea. We'll just rip it off altogether, just steal it. So that's a very simple example of somebody stealing your concoction. It comes out of your brain. You develop it. It's uniquely American. It's out of the entrepreneurial and innovative spirit. I invent something. I get it protected by the government. And no one can take it unless we have some sort of arrangement whereby they compensate me for it.
Okay. So I know there's a lot of talk about, and it seems to be coming out of China specifically, that they are stealing a lot of our ideas, or maybe just all over the world. But aren't we doing the same thing? Like, isn't anybody in business or anywhere around the world, they're all trying to sneak in and steal somebody else's intellectual property?
We've been pretty serious in this country, again, going all the way back to the days of Benjamin Franklin, about patents, trademarks, and copyrights. And because we can't be a free, innovative, entrepreneurial country unless we allow people to invent and protect their invention. Nobody does it like we do. And we're the most innovative country by far on the face of the earth. So people, they envy our ability to do that, but they also want to take our ideas because it would cost a whole lot of money to invent their own. So you've got countries of the world that have been rather notorious in their ability to steal intellectual property, ideas derived by you, the entrepreneur, or your company, whether it's simple things like shoes, or whether it's more complicated things like pharmaceutical drugs, which are very expensive to make. And if you steal ideas on a drug that somebody's making billions of dollars on, you can start making money overnight without paying any of the money necessary in all of the clinical trials and the research and development and all the laboratories you have to build up. So this is a big loser for the United States in that we probably lose to, I would say, 3 or 4 key rip-off countries. China would probably be the largest of them. Russia would be among them. Iran would be numbered among them as well. We lose hundreds of billions of dollars per year in ideas that are stolen. And they're as sophisticated, again, as our F-35 fighter jets, which is the next generation of fighters for the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marine Corps. Yeah. And so if you look at the J-20, which is China's latest version of their advanced fighter airplane. It looks a lot like the F-35, and people say, how could that be? I'm sure some of those ideas came from stolen ideas and ripped off intellectual property.
So how do they, is this via the email? Like a big thing in the news right now is the emails, like Russia hacked into emails. Is it stealing via emails, or how do they get a hold of this technology?
Well, it's done, and I looked into this quite seriously. I co-chaired a commission here in the United States on intellectual property theft with our former head of national intelligence, Admiral Denny Blair. The two of us led a commission for 1 year, and we looked very carefully at what this was costing the United States, who was behind it, and what we should do about it. And so it runs from the old-fashioned forms of espionage, where somebody might be working in your little place of work, your manufacturing plant, and they might just walk out with a suitcase full of ideas that you've drawn down or that you might have in the file. That's the old-fashioned version of intellectual property theft. And it runs all the way to the more advanced kind, where you would have people implanted in a major U.S. defense contractor actually stealing either through cyber means, through the computer, or through espionage means, our most advanced secrets in that regard. And so those are two extremes in terms of how people get these ideas, and what to do about it is the big problem. What do you do in the face of ideas that are being taken from our places of work?
And we're talking, so somebody, especially the F-35, you talked about, China has a version, looks very close to the F-35. Those planes are like $50 million a piece.
120.
Okay, it's been a while. My dad actually worked on the F-22.
Yeah, great
plane.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize it got up so far. So 120 million.
My son's a Navy fighter pilot.
Okay, there you go.
I'm familiar with what they're paying for theirs.
So for every, what did you say? It was a J-30?
J-20.
J-20. So for every J-20 they make and manufacture in China, we are losing $120 million.
Well, we don't know what their cost of manufacturing is, nor do we know exactly what. I'm sure some do. It would be a classified conversation. What in their plane was actually taken from ours? Was it hardware, wings and engine designs, or was it software, targeting systems and navigational things, which are highly sensitive? But they would all be of interest because we make the best fighters, the best military hardware anywhere in the world. So you've got a lot of different countries who are looking at stealing our ideas because it advances their own capabilities without their having to pay for it.
Okay, but we do the same thing to other countries, right?
Well, you would be hard-pressed to find any cases that have been brought against Americans for stealing other intellectual property.
Okay.
There may be some, but it would be a very rare occurrence.
Okay. All right. Just checking on that. Okay. So that was just sort of, I was curious about this. What is intellectual property? And I guess, again, if another country is making something that we could have gotten money from, that's taking money off of everyone's plate.
Yeah.
So the person who is no longer manufacturing an extra plane doesn't get paid for it, and then they can't go out and buy dinner or whatever. Just bringing it down to the everyday person. How does this all affect the person who has nothing to do with airplanes or basketballs or anything like that? How would having secrets stolen how would it affect me?
It's the most priceless thing you have in a business. It's how you manufacture your good, how your product is put together, the materials that are used in making it. And I'm thinking now, let's just use something simple like a shoe, because Huntsman Corporation, again, a company I know well, so we sell a lot of product into running shoes, Nike and Adidas, and they're made in different places of the world. They formulate different types of rubber that go in different layers of the bottom of the shoe, and it's all proprietary. It's all very secret, the way that they formulate this stuff. Well, you get a hold of those secrets, and somebody starts a running shoe factory in India or China or wherever, and soon you're put out of business because they can make their product cheaper than you can because they didn't have to pay for all the research and development that led to your breakthrough. And so it's
Okay.
totally, and that puts you out of business and all the
Right.
people you hire, and it just devastates the local economy.